The movie is set during the Great Depression of 1931. Michael Sullivan is a fearsome enforcer for the mob boss John Rooney, but this gruesome lifestyle is kept from his sons Michael Sullivan Jr. and Peter. One day, Michael takes the family to a wake for a recently slain man named Danny where they pay their respects. Mr. Rooney is like a father to Michael, as he took him in at an early age. Mr. Rooney is also fond of the kids and plays dice with them on occasion. Mr. Rooney's son, Connor, unlike Michael's calm and collected demeanor, is very rash and impulsive. During the wake, Mr. Rooney gives a speech in memory of Danny, speaking very highly of him and showing lots of respect. Danny's brother Finn then takes center stage to give his eulogy, but during the speech, he starts to imply that Mr. Rooney had something to do with the slaying of his brother. Seeing that things are about to get tense, Michael escorts Finn out of the room and to his car. The men send off Finn and Connor decides to go have a talk with him later, so Mr. Rooney insists that he take Michael with him and just talk, nothing more. After the celebrations, Mr. Rooney sits at the piano and Michael joins him and they play a tune they have practiced over and over, to the stares of everyone including Connor, who has a weird smile on his face. Peter asks him why he smiles at everything, and he responds saying everything is funny. That night, Peter wakes up after having a nightmare. He asks Junior what kind of work their father does for Mr. Rooney, and Junior explains that their father goes on dangerous missions, which is why he carries a gun. The next morning, Michael tells Peter that he has to work and won't be able to make it to his concert, which piques Junior's interest. His father and his work weighs on his mind, pulling it away from school. That night during a storm, Michael drives out and picks up Connor as they plan to go give Finn a visit. In the back, Junior has snuck along for the ride, hidden in a chest. From inside, he hears them ready their guns, even though they just plan to talk with Finn. As they head in, Junior ponders if he should follow, eventually giving in to his curiosity and finding a spot from where he can see what is happening. Inside, Connor scolds Finn for mouthing off at the funeral, wanting him to take back his words. Finn agrees under the pressure, but when Connor calls his brother a liar, Finn warns that he will find out what happened. Some of Finn's men come in and things get tense, and when Finn continues to talk, Connor shoots him in the head. Michael then kills the other men in the room, but is angry at Connor as he went against the plan. They see movement outside and when Michael comes to check, he is shocked to see his son cowering in fear. Michael warns him to keep his mouth shut, and Connor comes out and sees him, but decides to leave him to Michael. The two get home with Junior still in shock. He asks if their mom knows his real job, and Michael reveals that she does. The next day, the family is shocked to see Mr. Rooney pull up to the house, so Michael reveals to Annie what happened last night. While Peter greets Mr. Rooney fondly, Michael is now very wary, even though Mr. Rooney says nothing. Michael meets with Mr. Rooney, who is not mad, but says that it was bound to happen one day, noting how young Michael was when he first witnessed something like that. At school, Michael gets into a fight and is whooping the boy's butt. Meanwhile, Mr. Rooney is meeting with the Mafia top lieutenants to share out Finn's territory. Mr. Rooney then grimly asks Connor to address what happened last night. He thinks it's a joke, but Mr. Rooney is pissed, causing Connor to stand in respect and fear and apologize sincerely. After the meeting, Mr. Rooney calls Michael away to talk, as Connor sits there embarrassed and angry. As Michael goes to leave, Connor hands him a letter to be handed to a low-level gangster regarding his payments. Connor then apologizes for what happened the night before. Michael gets to the location, which is an underground club, and is led to see the owner by the bouncer. As they walk, the bouncer seems like a cool guy, even asking Michael to put in a word for him so he can step up. Michael goes in to see Tony and hands him the letter, but after reading it, Tony begins to move shifty. Michael swiftly picks up a gun and shoots Tony and the bouncer dead. He checks the letter only to see that it was a note instructing Tony to kill him. Realizing his family is in danger, he tries calling home but gets no one. Meanwhile, Annie is bathing Peter, when a masked man enters the room and shoots them both dead. Junior, who was returning home from being held back at detention, gets there to hear the gunshots and races to the house, but manages to hide just in time to see Connor step out, all shaking and nervous before stepping off into the night. Michael rushes in to see Junior sitting at the table. He runs upstairs and screams in anguish and pain, crumpling to the ground. Junior is strangely calm and just stands there looking at his father. Mr. Rooney, having heard the news, attacks Connor, cursing the day he was born, as he knows what is coming. Michael and Junior pack up and leave the house that same night and head over to the hotel where Connor normally stays. Junior, out of fear, does not want his father to go in, but Michael tells him he needs to end this right away and hands Junior a gun, telling him to wait 5 minutes then go to a close friend if he doesn't return. Michael breaks into the hotel room, but instead of Connor he sees Mr. Rooney's associate Jack. Jack offers him $25,000 from Mr. Rooney, promising a lot more if he backs down, but Michael wants Connor, who is in hiding. Michael rests the gun to his head, but Jack tells him he is just the messenger. Well, Michael uses his services and puts a bullet in his head as a message to the Mafia. Michael rushes back to the car and heads to Chicago, where he is planning to visit a crime boss there. After a long drive they get to Chicago and this place looks so beautiful though. Michael leaves Junior to wait in a reading room before heading into a massive building owned by the crime boss Mr. Nitti, who runs the Chicago faction of the Mafia. Downstairs, as Michael reads his favorite book, he finally breaks down in tears at the loss of his mother and brother. Michael meets with Mr. Nitti, asking for a job at his side, in return for the permission to kill Connor. Mr. Nitti turns down the offer, warning Michael to give up on his quest as it will not end well, but Michael leaves promising vengeance. It turns out that Mr. Rooney and Connor have been listening from the next room. Mr. Nitti advises Mr. Rooney to think objectively and not as a father, so Mr. Rooney agrees to Michael's death, but warns them to spare Junior. Mr. Nitti then reaches out to a sadistic killer named Harlan, giving him the mission, but telling Harlan to also kill Junior. Michael takes Junior to stay with an aunt. Meanwhile, Mr. Rooney attends the funeral for his family. Frank stops by a church, probably saying a prayer for all the men he is about to slaughter for his family. He calls his sister Sarah, who is at his home at the wake, telling her his plan to leave Junior at her home. After they talk, Harlan sees Sarah talking and gets the info on the last call. Michael stops by a diner, but Junior insists that he isn't hungry, so Michael leaves him in the car and heads inside. Harlan has tracked down Michael and is driving by when he spots the car and pulls up to the diner. He heads inside where there is a cop also eating and takes a seat across from Michael, who instantly senses the threat. Michael pretends to be drinking and slightly intoxicated, and begins asking Harlan about his work after seeing his camera, and he responds that he is with the press. Michael then staggers to his feet and asks for the bathroom. The cop is about to leave, so Harlan readies his gun for when Michael returns, but instead, he hears engines and sees Michael making his getaway after slashing Harlan's tires. Harlan tries shooting at them and also shoots the cop dead once he comes to check. Michael shuts off his lights and turns into a field. He angrily tells Junior to follow his instructions when given or he takes care of himself. Junior tells Michael that he probably thinks everything is his fault anyways, but Michael tells him it is not. He cannot take Junior to Sarah's anymore and warns him to pay attention from here on out or else they both die. Michael plans to force the Mafia to give up Connor by robbing the banks that hold its money, and asks Junior for his help, to which he eagerly agrees. Michael teaches Junior how to drive and he initially stalls the car but is determined to learn. Very soon he can handle himself well on the road. Michael then heads into the Mafia bank and holds up the manager, but leaves him some cash which he gladly hides away. He continues holding up banks and taking out money, while Junior gradually gets better at actually learning the getaway part of being a getaway driver. After a series of successful heists, Michael and Junior sit in a diner having dinner, and Junior casually tells the waitress that they are bank robbers, which she obviously does not believe. Junior asks about his share of the loot. Turns out he thinks $200 is a lot of money, but learns he could have asked for more. Meanwhile, Connor is shitting himself, trying to get in contact with his father. Mr. Nitti gets the news about the robberies when Connor barges in, declaring that he does not need their protection and that his father is old and he will be the boss soon. Michael hits another bank but learns that the Mafia took all their money. He is told that the Mafia's accountant authorized the withdrawal and plans to pay him a visit. Michael and Junior get to the accountant's address and he tells Junior to be on the lookout if he sees anything. Michael enters his room and holds the accountant, Mr. Rance, at gunpoint. It turns out, Harlan is in a hotel right across the street, and from his window he sees Rance with Michael, so he hurriedly gets dressed and grabs a shotgun. Rance is stalling Michael, when suddenly Harlan bursts into the room, guns blazing. The two shoot at each other and Michael manages to hit Harlan in the face, before grabbing Rance's ledgers and making a run for it. As Michael heads back to the car, Harlan manages to shoot him in the shoulder before Junior speeds away. While they drive, Michael passes out from the wound, so Junior stops at a nearby home, shouting for help. The old couple removes the bullet and Junior stays by his father, helping him to recover. As he sits on the porch one day, he smiles in pride as he watches his son help the old farmer work. That night Michael has a bad dream and joins his father as he goes over the Mafia documents. Junior asks Michael if he preferred Peter over him, noting that Michael treated him differently. Taken back by this, Michael confesses that he saw himself in Junior and didn't want him to turn out like he did. Junior accepts this, and gives his dad a hug before going to bed. Michael is going through the files when he realizes that Connor has been secretly taking money from his father. They head out early the next morning, leaving the sweet old couple a bag full of cash. That day, Mr. Rooney is at Mass, not realizing Michael is sitting right behind him. Michael asks him to meet privately and the two head to a room beneath the church. Michael hands him the documents, revealing Connor's activities, but Mr. Rooney reveals that he already knew. He tells Michael that he cannot give up Connor and warns him to leave, but says he also regrets losing Michael, who was like a son to him. Later, Michael assembles his Tommy gun, telling Junior that he has one more job, then it's all over. As Junior sleeps, Michael leaves him a note, knowing that he may never return. Turns out Junior is not asleep and gets up to see the note there. Mr. Rooney and his guards are leaving a pub that night, only to realize that his driver is dead. Michael then opens fire from the shadows, wiping out all the guards in a hail of bullets, all while Mr. Rooney stands there with his back turned. Michael walks up to Mr. Rooney and with tears in his eyes, he cuts his adopted father down in a hail of bullets. Mr. Nitti then gets a call from Michael, who, having heard the news, willingly gives up Connor's location. Michael heads over to the hotel where the guards allow him to pass freely. He readies his gun and enters the room where Connor is hiding in the bathtub, and releases the 3 most satisfying gunshots ever. Michael returns home to a warm hug from Junior, and the two set off for Sarah's house, finally getting revenge. They get to the house, which sits on a beach, and while Junior plays with the dog, Michael heads inside the house. He calls for Sarah but hears no one. As he enjoys the scenery, 2 shots ring out and Michael falls to his feet. It is Harlan who has come to complete his mission. He sets up a camera to take photos of Michael as he is dying, but Junior appears holding Harlan at gunpoint. Junior is ready to shoot, but Michael tells him not to do it before he pulls his gun and shoots Harlan in the back, killing him. Junior runs to his father, who apologizes over and over to him before passing away in his son's arms. The movie ends with Junior narrating, saying that his father's fear was that he would follow the same road, and that he has not held a gun since his father died. Michael drives the car back to the farm, saying he grew up there, and now when he is asked if his father was a good man, he just tells them, "He was my father." Remember to turn on notifications, so you can watch more movie recaps like this. Thanks for watching.